We would look for a way of doing this without falling into the problems that existed with the Liberals' version of this, but we are starting with a definition of what I'm calling an obligation of result. For the NDP, the obligation of result is that the police are able to track every gun. That has to be there both for public protection and for protection of the police themselves.
All right, so if elected, Thomas Mulcair says he'll bring back the long gun registry, an improved registry, he says, that doesn't go overboard, whatever that means. But why is Mulcair insisting on taking us back when there's evidence that proves long guns are not a problem in this country? Courts ruled the registry kind of ineffective. And if he wants to solve the gun problem, why is he not going after the black market, the illegal guns that are brought in, that are involved in most of the shootings in this country? Let's bring in Tony Bernardo to talk about an issue that, Tony, seems to flare and heat up at the time of the anniversary of the Polytechnique massacre. Quebec is one of those provinces that remains in favor of the registry. So is this politics? Is Mr. Mulcair just simply politicking on the backs of a tragedy, or pandering to his base? Is it strategic for him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the best way to describe this is dancing in the blood of the victims. Thomas Mulcair's got a bit of a problem in that the only real base of support the NDP have is Quebec, and they're losing their support in Quebec. Now, the Liberals have taken a position here where they've said publicly they're not going to bring back the long gun registry, something which is near and dear to the hearts of a lot of Quebecers. So he's taking the left and ground on this thing, trying to shore up his base of support in Quebec.
Yeah, look, the Liberals brought this registry in. It was supposed to be at the cost of $2 million. It ended up ballooning into a $1 billion boondoggle. It was just a disaster. Harper, of course, came in. He scrapped it. And even Justin Trudeau, when pressed on this issue, said he's not going to bring it back. And we have evidence already that a long gun registry doesn't really do anything more than create headlines in this country.
Well, no, and it never did anything more than that. They can never point to a single solitary case where the long gun registry actually prevented a crime. You know, it's great to say that it gives the police the ability to trace a firearm after the fact, but that's a lot of money to spend when you've already had the crime committed. You're not preventing the crime from happening. All you're doing is making their investigative work a little bit easier for them, and even at that, it's pretty tenuous because the vast majority of firearms that were used in the commission of crimes weren't in the registry.
Yeah, look, I get the sense that the Michael Zihaf-Bibeau case, where he, of course, went up and killed Corporal Cirillo with a long gun, and I don't know guns, so I don't know the brand of gun it was, but nonetheless, the argument comes, you know, if we had a registry, we'd know where he got that weapon, et cetera, et cetera. It still wouldn't have stopped the crime from happening. So a registry doesn't really matter.
Let's call a spade here. That firearm came from Quebec. They still have a long gun registry. So he acquired the firearm. It seems that he acquired the firearm legally with a firearms license. And we have a situation here where Quebec's retained their long gun registry. What happened? Well, hey, it didn't work. Again, and again, and again, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this argument has come up, given the crime stats that came out this week prove and show evidence that homicide by gun is down. The registry is not in effect, so obviously it had no bearing on it. But nonetheless, you know, the Harper government has decided that if they want to go after homicides by guns, they're going to go after the illegal weapons that come over the border, the handguns that are used in a lot of gang shootings. So go after the gangs, the drugs, which to me, you know, the black market. I mean, anytime I ever attended a shooting in Toronto, it was always, you know, gang-related, generally speaking, and it was using an illegal handgun. The only trial that I recall in this country that a legal firearm owned by a gun owner who had his license, you know, that was the Brass Rail murder, where he decided to take his gun out and was showing off, and he fired off a shot. Because the bouncer, he got into an altercation with the bouncer. But we don't hear about these problems every single day in this country. Therefore, I don't see it as a problem. So I don't know why they're picking this fight.
Well, because it's politically expedient to do so. And, you know, the brass rail shooting was obviously a terrible tragedy, but it made headlines right across the country because it's so rare.
Yeah.
You know, we're not dealing with something that happens all the time. As a matter of fact, it's quite rare.
Sure.
You know, and when you consider that you've got over 2 million people in the country that have firearms licenses, you've got at least 12 or 14 million firearms in the country. You know, we're dealing with something that just doesn't happen very much. And, you know, I think Canadians, by and large, have lost their interest in this thing. The only people who are reviving it are political parties trying to make brownie points.
Sure, but every time an election rears, I mean, look, Olivia Chow in the municipal election said she'd go after handguns. No one in government seems to want to go after the real solution, which is the illegal firearms. And again, that's at a federal level, and you would have to deal with border security.
Yes, and I think you have to look at how well that worked for Olivia Chow, and I think that you can also say it's going to work equally well for Thomas Mulcair. But what amazes me in this whole C-42 debate that's going on right now is the bald-faced lies that are being told by the Liberal Party about what is in Bill C-42. They put out these outrageous posters, and they are blatantly lying about what the content of that bill is.
Yeah.
It's the most atrocious thing I've ever seen. You know, the country really needs to have some kind of laws that protect Canadians from the lies of political parties.
Yeah, but that's up to the media to challenge, because Mr. Trudeau went on a tangent that was, you know, riddled full of holes as to his claims of what Bill C-42 would or would not do. And essentially, he was saying, you know, this will put weapons into every Canadian's hands. I don't know where that came from, but it certainly did not go challenged.
No, and you know, it's pitiful that the Canadian media is so slavishly tied to the Liberal Party in so many ways that they would miss the opportunity here to call out somebody in a bald-faced lie. You know, it's atrocious what Mr. Trudeau has done on this issue. And you know, it's good to see Sun actually doing something about this and calling him out on this. I don't think that any of the journalists in the country have actually read Bill C-42, but it's a pretty light read, and it spells out very specifically what the bill is about, and it's not about loosening controls.
Yeah, look, I don't own a gun. I would never own a gun. It's not my thing, but I do know.
You should.
Well, but I can still see the other side of the argument, because I don't see how Bill C-42 is going to change anything, because by and large, only given my experience of covering this issue, we're not telling reports of, you know, gun owners legally owning, you know, guns causing problems. It is the illegal gun trade that no government seems that they want to touch it. And until they do that, you're going to see illegal handguns committing homicides. All right, Tony, got to leave it there.